welcome in to week 4, the season finale of the Keon Sports Playoff Podcast. You know, a lot of people say I live and breathe high school sports. A lot of people are wrong. Right here is Madeline Rose. Say hi, Madeline.
Hi.
Right here is Maggie McKee. Say hi, Maggie. And upstairs is my beautiful wife, Emily, who is too shy to come on camera. For any of you out there confused, my wife upstairs is what I live and breathe for. There should never be any kind of confusion about that. Football for me, covering high school football, is fun. I do it for very little money. I do it to spotlight the kids. Can we spotlight every kid every week? No, we try. We try our hardest. But again, from the bottom of our heart, we're doing our best, and we appreciate your support. Thanks, girls.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
That being said, I want to welcome in everybody who has supported us for 5+ years. Actually, coming up on our 5-year anniversary in a few weeks, guys. December 18th, the 5-year anniversary of Keon Sports. To me, sounds like a reason to celebrate. What do you guys think?
Well, first of all, congratulations on 5 years upcoming, and certainly a good opening. So much so, I almost thought Dom was tearing up there for a second, but got the sniffles. But certainly heartfelt, Vince, and absolutely true. So, props to you on making that statement there. And we do our best to always cover all those kids and get them publicity, and try to get to all the names and everything. But there's so many athletes out there. There's only so many of us that we can only get to so many games. There's only so much time we have to talk about things. So we do our best, but you were spot on.
Appreciate it, fellas. Guys, so much to cover this week about high school football. We're all excited to do it our last time for the entire year. Wanted to get 2 house cleaning items out of the way. 2 things I always forget to do. I've always told people I am a writer and a talker first. I am a salesman last. I am probably the world's worst salesman, so I forget 9 times out of 10. But I wanted to throw this out there. In a few weeks, high school football season is done, which means sponsorship season begins for 2024. Woo! And Brandon and Dom and Cole know firsthand just how stressed out of my mind I get in January, thinking the world is caving in every year. But honestly, guys, all joking aside, we have some amazing deals coming up. Our WWE coverage, pop culture coverage, and high school football always continue to be that big 3, along with NFL draft, which is the 3 young men you see
Maction.
in the squares.
Can't forget about the Maction.
Maction, man. We need some Maction sponsors for sure. Don works harder than I think any human being I've ever met when it comes to Maction.
I'm editing right now as we speak.
There you go. So wanted to throw it out there. Cole and I really handle the majority of the sponsorships. You can always email me, vince.mckee@keonsports.com. And if you'd rather talk to my vice president, Cole, how can they get a hold of you if they want to talk about some sponsorship ideas?
Yeah, you can email me at colemcdaniel2910@gmail.com. Reach out about sponsorships through there. Of course, again, you can slide into my DMs on Twitter, now called X as well. I know Vince always plugs our Twitter handles, so CDM_2910. So again, if you'd rather do it through social media, that's fine as well.
If you don't know Dom, Cole, and Brandon's Twitter handle by now, you just don't follow Keon Sports. That's all there is to it. Mm-hmm. So that was plug number 1. Plug number 2, the other thing I always forget to do is plug my books and everything else. So you can see them behind me. But regardless, high school football rivalries. We have Olmsted Falls, Avon, Ignatius, St. Ed's all on the cover, Avon Lake on the back, Bereavement Park on the back. The best rivalries in high school football. I will be making my final appearance probably for quite some time, this coming Saturday at Linus Hall on the campus of OLA. I will be signing autographs, taking pictures, and signing books from 10 to 3. There's no charge on the autographs or the pictures. However, all 13 of my books, will be sold that day for $20 each, cash. Okay, guys, we have so many fun things to talk about this week. I have not stopped thinking about this podcast for the last 3 days. Made a drive out to Canfield, Youngstown area on Saturday, and was just thinking about the night before, the amazing game that I saw, and so on and so on. So I want to start. I have a lot to say. So I want to start with this. A couple quick points here. Number 1, I'm going to start with Avon, and I'm going to say Coach Elder was the coach of the second game I was ever at. You guys heard me talk about my games last week. In 2015. It was Avon versus Avon Lake, second game I ever covered as a stringer for the Plain Dealer. Fell in love with that night, that rivalry. And Coach Elder has been good to me ever since. So I just want to shout out Coach Mike Elder. The guy is amazing, takes a lot of heat, like winners usually do, whether you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, the New York Yankees, the Dallas Cowboys, whoever you are, when you win consistently, you take a lot of heat from people. But that guy has been so good to me over the years. Wanted to thank him. Also wanted to thank Coach DeLuca. Coach Tom DeLuca of Olmsted Falls, since day one of Keon Sports, even when I was with NUSI, this guy was always so supportive, always so helpful. Wanted to thank him. We Brandon and I, a former intern of ours, we knew him well. We worked with him a lot. Brennan Stang. We actually sent young Brennan Stang out his first ever assignment with Keon Sports, and his assignment was to interview Coach DeLuca. And Brennan did a great job that day, and Coach DeLuca was very welcoming towards him, gave him all the time in the world. We don't forget about those types of things ever. Period. And then really finally want to thank Olmsted Falls athletic director Rob Coxon. As Cole clearly mentioned last week, clear as day, Cole put it out there. Olmsted Falls was our choice, and they chose us. We chose them in the COVID year when we needed one team to cover and a press box we could trust. We look no further than Olmsted Falls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All the roses have been handed out. It's time to get the business. Here's the deal, guys. Just like I had my daughters in front of me to start this show, I'm going to say this. You do this long enough, you become friends with a lot of people. These referees this year are making $75 a game. Now, this is before fees that they have to pay. This is before travel. This is before anything else, before taxes. When you break this down, these referees are making about $35 a game when you really sit and look at everything they have to go through per hour. All right? $35 a game. It's not much. Like Keon Sports, they're doing it because they love to do it. All right? So the referees took a beating. And if you don't believe me, take a look at my article, Avon versus Olmsted Falls, which is the first game we're going to talk about this week. I feel bad for those guys. They were trying their hardest. You can never be, everything's bang, bang. And when you're in high school, Dom knows this more than anybody. He played high school football. In high school football, it's bang, bang. There's no red flag. There's no going up to the box to look at instant replay. Dom, am I right or wrong? Did they have that in PA? Did they have instant replay in PA?
No, they didn't have instant replay. And even in college, we didn't have it either. When a ref made a call at the D3 level or high school football level, that the call's made. The only hope that you have is that they meet together and someone saw something that someone didn't. That's it.
Correct. Brandon, you're a smart guy, one of the smartest guys I know. You think any referee or official in his right mind is driving to a high school football game thinking to myself, I'm going to screw this community tonight?
No, absolutely not. And like Dom said, there's no backing for these guys. We see NFL and D1 college referees mess this stuff up all the time, and they have the ability to go back and look at replays to converse with each other. They have bigger crews. They have more experienced crews. For the most part, like, these referees are people that we just work with on a day-to-day basis. I mean, back when I was still bartending, somebody that was there with me was a referee just in his spare time. And we should be thankful that there's enough of these guys to even go out and do the job right now, because it's a thankless job. Like you said, they're not really getting paid a lot. You don't notice them when things go well, and you don't really hear their names get called out. You don't see them in the news until there is a bad call or something else happens. Like in this specific case with the Olmsted Falls Avon game, even we had the luxury of going back and watching highlights and kind of looking at that over and over again. You don't have that same luxury as an official. So yeah, it's no one's going in with the intention of screwing one team or the other. They want these kids to have fun. A lot of the times they have kids that are playing high school sports or used to play high school sports. They just want to see, a clean, fair game put out there, and they make mistakes just like everybody else does in their profession.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to break it down to you guys. This is one of the best games I've ever seen. I would rank it top 5. I was texting with you all night long. A wave of emotions back and forth as the game went on. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Going to start off in the first quarter. Going to read over my bullet notes, and I'm going to say it like this. Masterful game plan by Coach DeLuca for ball control offense in the first quarter. Avon, as good as they are, Avon had the ball for 3 plays. 3 plays, Avon had the ball in that first quarter. It reminded me of the Super Bowl. I even mentioned it in the press box to the other writers. It reminded me of the Super Bowl years ago, the first time Buffalo ever made the Super Bowl when they had the run and shoot offense. It was Buffalo, no one could stop that offense. Bill Belichick, the defensive coordinator for the Giants, and Cole's heard me mention this on their Climate Tech show, devised a plan to keep the ball away from Buffalo. That is what Coach DeLuca and Coach Ciolik and Coach Pace and Coach Rivera, that's what they did that night on Friday night, and it worked. We got out of the first quarter. Olmsted Falls is still driving, still 0-0. Like I said, Avon had touched the ball once. They score, they go in, touchdown, 7-0 Olmsted Falls. I knew instantly, harkening back to our conversation the other night about if Olmsted Falls scores first, watch out, because we're going to have a game. That's what they needed to do. All four of us agreed upon that. So then later on in that same quarter, okay, Avon gets the ball back. They have a beautiful drive, go right down the field. They go for it on a 4th and short. They don't get it. Okay, Olmsted Falls, next big momentum swing, right back to Olmsted Falls again. They're now cooking. They're up 7-0 with the ball. All right. Fast forward to the end of the quarter. It's still 7-0 Falls. Avon has not scored. This is nuts. What are we watching, right? Avon gets the ball, finishes the second quarter. Unfortunately, young man, no one good, got hurt. Early indication is the collarbone. He won't be back. We pray for him and his family. As I said in the beginning with my children, nothing is bigger than family. So our prayers to Nolan. Regardless, they have to kick a field goal. Owen Warwick nails it, 7-3. They come out, they kick another field goal, just like that, 7-6. Now, here we go. All right, we're going to start talking controversy here because it needs to be spoken about. Up 7-6, Olmsted Falls goes for broke. All right, and again, I applaud Coach Luca for this call. You could say what you want. Oh, Avon was down to a backup quarterback. They weren't moving the ball well. You could say what you want. You're not supposed to be in this game. A lot of people did not pick you to be in this game. You lost 14 straight times. You go for broke. I agree with this decision. I don't agree with all the decisions that were made. This one I kind of do. So on 4th and 1, they run the option. Looks like, okay, and I'm going to let Cole chime in a second here. But live speed where I was sitting, I want to make this crystal clear. It was a bang-bang call, just like I wrote in my article. You see him pull it back and take off, and he's gone for 40 yards. The ref blows the whistle, I'd say about a millisecond after he begins his descent to try to take off down the sidelines. What I cannot see in that press box, okay, and depending on where the referee is seeing, you don't know. But what I cannot see in that press box is he was stopped. His momentum was stopped, and that's why the whistle was blown, okay? But at live speed, I'm not seeing that. So when I go to write my article at the end of the night, I haven't had the luxury of any replays. I'm going off of what I saw, and that's why I call it a bang-bang play, and that's why I wrote the word wow. Now, Cole, you've studied it. I know you've probably watched it at least 50 times. What are your thoughts on that first controversial play, 4th and 1 in the third quarter?
Yeah, and first of all, here's what I want to say as well. Because by the way, obviously last week, I was quoted obviously saying that Olmsted Falls needed a miracle. I got to say, props to those kids for playing their hearts out and keeping themselves in that game, Vince. And they got exactly what they needed. When I mean miracle, they needed Avon to start slow on offense. They need to get stops defensively. They need to score first. They did everything they need to do in order to give themselves a shot. And that's how they even got to this position where they could make these close, tough decisions because they were in a game against a team that's been their kryptonite where they've lost 14 times in a row, and they had a chance. I understand the tough decision of going forward on 4th and 1. The only difficult thing is you're on your own 27-yard line. Am I correct on that, Vince?
Correct.
So certainly if you don't get that there, you're in a bad spot on the field. So some people would want to punt that one away. Current analytics era, I know, certainly tells you maybe go for it on that 4th and short. I don't necessarily hate the call there. But when you and I talked about this, and I went back and watched it, I'm thinking, man, that sucks if the officials got that call wrong. What you told me. Thing is you don't have the luxury of seeing the replay.
Hold on real quick.
Yeah,
because I'm driving home that night with 0 replays, thinking to myself, man, they got screwed twice, and we're going to get to the second one in a bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you and I were talking on the phone as I'm headed home from my game and you're headed home from yours. So I'm like, as soon as I have to get home, I have to look at this. So found it on social media. And actually, credit to the clip that I saw, was a really good angle. So obviously we know that there's the read options being run there for Olmsted Falls. And I'll tell you what, Jimmy Russell, the quarterback there of Olmsted Falls, is one of the best quarterbacks out there in making quick decisions of whether to pull it or whether to hand it off. He is brilliant at it. Maybe the best quarterback in the area at doing so. I will say this, though. I had to look very closely. I had to zoom in. I had to keep replaying it over and over and over again. Here's what happens. You have Derek Necker, the fullback, who arguably one of the best fullbacks, again, a physical, stout guy on 4th and 1, makes sense to try to hand him that ball. Russell, he puts it in his chest, in the chest of Necker, and Necker, as Russell's kind of making that decision, Russell looks like he's going to give it to him. He reads it just a slight bit late, which is not typical for him. So you see the fullback get possession of that football. And as he's taking over control of that football, now I saw a bunch of people commenting and circling the knee of Necker. That's not the problem. His knee was never down. What you see is Russell did keep his hand in there because I think he realized after you saw the fullback take the ball, he realized late, I should have pulled this. Let me try to see if I can get this football back and run and take off. Smart late decision to try to make something happen. The thing is, he didn't have possession of the ball anymore, even though his hands were in there. That was fully controlled by the fullback. So you see Derek Necker get stopped by the defensive lineman, slowed down. A second defender comes in, and they start driving him back. As he starts getting moved backwards, and then another defender's about to come in and pile up, that's when you see at that time, Russell gets his hand in there. He then takes the ball from Necker and starts to run. At the same time as he starts to run, the official starts jogging and waving the hands, blows the whistle, and it was right after he had pulled it and started running. The call there was actually the right call. The guy who had possession of the ball was your fullback, Necker. His forward progress was stopped. He was starting to get driven backwards. That's a call that's going to be made in college football. It's a call that's going to be made in the NFL. The only thing the official did that was a mistake is he was about a half second late on blowing that whistle.
That's exactly what happened.
There wouldn't be as much controversy if he blew that whistle just a slight bit quick. But he let it play out about a second too long. And I think then obviously because it got pulled and then everybody saw Russell running that ball and he had miles of space, everybody's thinking that it was a really bad call. But I think if you blow that before he even has a chance to take it from his fullback and run, you don't have the same controversy there. It's just a stop on 4th and short. So, but forward progress was absolutely stopped with the guy who had the ball there.
And the problem again, and like we said, with the $75 a game or whatnot, it's the human element. You got to put the human element in everything. And when that referee is blowing that whistle 2 seconds too late, like you did, or millisecond, as I said in the article, he blew it too late. And by the time he blew it, myself, my guy Sean Bennett there, we're all friends, us writers. We're all sitting in the box, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, wow, did Falls just catch a bad break, right? So you don't know, you don't have that. Moving on, though, of course, Coach Elder's going to take advantage of that. That's why he's the best. The Avon immediately scores 12-7. They don't get the 2-point conversion. Now we're in the fourth quarter, all right? And I'm thinking, man, this game's been pretty decent, but this is when a decent game becomes epic. Down 12-7, the Bulldogs, unbelievable. They get to the 1-yard line, 1st and goal. Okay, down 12-7, 1st and goal, fourth quarter. Stopped 3 straight times. In fact, they went backwards. So by 4th and goal, it was 4th and 4, and I'm like, man, did they just miss an unbelievable opportunity here? They call a timeout, come back out, they run the Philly special and score. Unbelievable, right? They run it to perfection. They score, they go for 2, nail it. Now they're up 15. Wait, what would the score have been? Bear with me, folks. 15-12. So now they're up 15-12, and that's when I text the 3 of you, and I'll let this out. A lot of things we do is off the record, but I'll let this out. I believe my text was Olmsted Falls is going to win this game. Avon's in serious trouble. Thinking out loud in that moment, not that I don't think Coach Elder's the greatest thing since sliced bread, because I do, but what I'm saying is in that moment, it just seemed like it was Olmsted Falls' night. No matter what they tried, besides that 4th down thing, everything was working. So they take the lead. No sooner did I have to put my foot in my mouth. Seconds later, Blake Elder, the backup quarterback, the 10th grader, the son of the coach, launches one of the most beautiful passes I've ever seen a high school kid throw in my life. 78-yarder to Kepner, touchdown. Unbelievable. Just like that, 19-15 Avon. And then it gets wonky. So Falls gets the ball back. They're down 19-15, still plenty of time on the clock. They get stopped, 4th down. I say to the guys in the box, I'm like, hey, they're going to go for a fake punt here. They've ran every trick play you could think of at this point. Why not go? They're deep in their own territory again. All right, so this was risky. They're only down by 4. They didn't need to go for that fake punt, but I had a weird feeling they were going to go for a fake punt, and they did. Didn't get it. Probably not the best decision. Who knows? I'm not a coach. Don't put me in the middle of this. But it backfired. Immediately, one play later, literally one play later, touchdown pass, Elder to Maxey, and within 3 minutes of me sending you guys that text saying, I think this might be Olmsted Falls' night, something special's going on, within 3 minutes, Blake Elder, 2 touchdown passes. Now's when it gets good. So it's 26-15 at this point, all right? So 26-15, 5:23 to go in the game. It's not looking good for Olmsted Falls. You're down by 11. It just looks like as hard as you fought, doggone it, you're going to lose again, right? That's where you get that feeling like, I can't believe this is happening to this school yet again. They didn't give up. And again, I want to shout out all their coaches, Pace, DeLuca, Ciolik, all of you, Los, with 5:23 to go in the game, all right? It felt like it was over yet. They come right back again. I'm telling you, boys, you saw it in person on that YouTube game. They marched right down the field without a problem. They scored, big bam, got another 2-point conversion, and just like that, it's now 26-23 Olmsted Falls, and here it comes. The play that everybody's talking about. This article I wrote has more hits, 5 times the amount of hits of any other high school football game recap article we've ever written, not awards or anything else, not features. An actual game recap, I want you all to know, 5 times more than the second most ever. That's how ridiculous people have been clicking on this thing. They go for the onside kick. Now I'm going to throw it to Cole in a second. Live speed, watching it live, happened right in front of me. That should have been Olmsted Falls' ball. I didn't see anybody touch it. So I saw it go about at least 12 yards. Again, this is live speed. All right. Ball went about 12 yards. I saw the Olmsted Falls player. I want to say it was Habernicki or Singleton. I apologize. I don't remember exactly who. Fall on it, grab it. I'm like, holy crap, here we go. Like, this is actually going to happen. And then everybody goes nuts. Olmsted Falls runs off the field cheering. It's just what's going on, right? All of a sudden, there's the summit. It gets called no. An Olmsted Falls player touched it before 10 yards. I did not see that. I've watched the replay. I still have not seen that. However, that's why they are the referees, and I am not. I'm not making that decision. And a call is a call. A call is a call, whether it's a good one or it isn't. However you feel, nothing you can do about it now. So that's it. Unfortunately, we'll never know. I guess it is what it is, but that's what happened. The game was stopped for a little while. It began again. JC, Joe Curry and Caffey ran it in, made it, whatever that would have made it, 33-23, and that was it. So, unfortunately, it wasn't the most clean look at an onside kick. However, our eyes in the sky here, Cole McDaniel, has done a lot of studying on the replay. What did you see on the replay that leads you to believe the refs got it right?
Yeah, so the thing is like I said, the officials have a tough job, and but I'm not afraid to say when an official makes a mistake. I'd say that first one is absolutely without a doubt the right call. It was just a quick thing that happened, and you really have to slow it down and pause it and go slow-mo on that video to really see exactly what happened. But they did a good job. This one's the one that was more difficult. Again, I watched it from multiple different angles, and I had almost kind of different opinions by looking at different things. So the night of the game, after I kind of looked at the other one, studied that one, I then looked at the onside kick. Here's what I noticed is the ball was obviously recovered by Olmsted Falls about 12, 13 yards down the field, okay? That's where they landed on that ball. So, again, I'm going back a little bit to try to see what happens. So, what I do notice, though, as an Avon player dives and stretches their arm out there to try to get to that football, right after it, goes underneath the arm, I can't tell if it grazes off the bottom of the hand and kicks backwards or if it hits the shin of an Olmsted Falls coming forward, because this clip that I saw on Twitter was directly across the line. And an Avon player or another player had run right in front, right around the time that ball kind of went directly forward about 3 or 4 yards. Because the thing is, it was kind of going out to the outside, a little to the left, and then it changed direction slightly. So I'm thinking it has to get touched. Who touched it? It was our guy Chris Grenew then, who he was shooting from the opposite sideline. When I watched our highlight video on YouTube, what I noticed is, because Chris actually wasn't directly across, he was farther back, thinking he was going to get a really good shot there, and he actually did get a good shot. The only hard thing is, where exactly is this line? Where was it touched? Chris's shot, though, details something really well. When the ball's kicked out and it takes a bounce, it looks like it nearly touches an Avon player, but it actually kind of slides just past the arm before it gets down. So it goes underneath. The first person it does hit is one of the Olmsted Falls players. It bounces off their shin. So ball's kicked at that 40-yard line. His left foot is on the 50, so his right foot is about just behind the 50, about half a yard behind. So that means the ball carried about 9.5 yards before it hit his shin and then kicked forward, and Olmsted Falls dove on that football. So piecing those two videos together, I remember from the other one where that ball changed direction at, and then I can see from the other that it hit an Olmsted Falls player first. Piecing those two together, it's close. It's very close, and that's a tough call to make, but probably about 9.5 yards or so before it actually hits the shin of the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs player. So I got to say the officials on what's a tougher call. I think the other one was more clear, but I think this one was really, really close. But ultimately, based on the video, I think they so close actually got that.
Go ahead, Dom.
Oh, you want me breaking this down too?
I mean, it looked like you wanted to say something. I didn't want to cut you off. I cut you off 3 times last week.
You're good. Well, I do want to talk about the play that we talked about before, the other call that is in question. So this actually happened to a team I was on sophomore year. Wasn't the playoffs? It was a regular season game. It was against our biggest rival. Whoever wins this essentially wins the regular season and gets the 1 seed. It was a big game early in the season. We hand the ball off to our star running back, broke every record at the school, and gets stuffed at the goal line. He turns his back and he pitches the ball to the quarterback, who proceeds to run it in. The ball is whistled in between when the ball was in the air before it went to the quarterback's hands. So I've lived this story. I've seen someone who, in a position like we are in, who have seen it and we report on it, how they had to try to explain it and kind of either back the refs or back the call or whatever the truth is, tell that. And it's not easy. But again, you guys, Vince, you saw it in person. Cool. I know you broke it down. I know when I saw it, it was right before I left Ed's. I wasn't really able to get a good look at it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because if that doesn't get called, then it will be Avon who says it should have been called.
Oh yeah.
And now, of course, Olmsted Falls fans are saying it should have been called, right? Either way, that call was going to be in question. It was either that should have been a call or it shouldn't have been a call. No matter what the refs did in that situation, it wasn't going to be good. And then same with the onside kick. Whatever the refs would have called, they had it wrong, right? No matter what they did in the eye of whatever fan was going to get the wrong side. And I'm not saying that the call's right or wrong. Again, you guys broke it down. I thought that it may have barely hit the arm of somebody, but even then I could not really tell. I would have to watch it 100 times over to even figure it out. But again, for the refs, they do a great job. I have a father who's a referee in Pennsylvania. I know how hard it is. At the end of the day, they have a really tough job, and there's not a lot of them. These guys are working a lot of games, from youth football to the kids that are putting on pads the first time to high school. And they do not have an easy job. They make a lot of calls each week. A lot of them are right and a lot of them are wrong. At the end of the day, no matter what side you're on, it's going to be a tough call.
Thank you, Dom. Brandon, before I close this point, is there anything you would like to add?
No, again, I think especially Cole did a very, very good job of breaking that down from a film perspective. But, just the kind of what we've been saying, the initial reactions watching those, it kind of felt like maybe the wrong call was made. But especially, on that first play, it did look like that situation where the runner is losing their forward progress. They're starting to get pushed back. It becomes a safety issue at that point. You call that dead. If anything, like Cole said, they blew the whistle just a second too late. I only saw the one angle, Chris's angle for the onside kick. So I don't feel super comfortable giving like a full breakdown or opinion on that. It did look like that should have been Olmsted Falls' possession based on what I have seen. But again, I didn't get the luxury of seeing all the angles. And again, we got to go back to the fact that neither do the referees. They have their eyes. They have what's there on the field. They don't get to look at several different, viewpoints and options like we have been able to after the fact and really be able to analyze and break that down. And to their credit, from at least the breakdown that Cole and Dom have really been able to do, it seems like they got both of those right. So credit to the referees for being able to make the tough call in that situation. Also to Dom's point, regardless of what happened there, somebody wasn't going to be happy. It was either going to be the Avon fans being upset that it felt like everything was kind of, going Olmsted Falls' way or vice versa. There's really no winning there if you're the referees in that situation. But, all in all, I feel like they did the best job they could. And I don't think anything that they called in that game was particularly egregious.
Well, I'm going to close it with this. And then we're going to go back to Brandon and talk about Glenville here in a second. But I'm going to close it with this here. You saw my daughters open up the show. I want to throw out 3 attaboys to you guys. Dom has a beautifully stunning girlfriend. He outkicked his coverage like you want to believe. Lives out of town. He could easily say the hell with high school football and go visit her every single weekend. He doesn't because he wants to cover Ohio high school football. He's not even from here. He does it because he loves it. Brandon has one of the cutest little kids I've ever seen in my life. Will probably be one of my future son-in-laws one day. Camden, absolutely adorable. He could be with him every Friday night. He's not because he wants to bring you guys high school football. Cole, his parents live out of town. His wife's parents live out of town. They live right by each other. It'd be so easy for every single weekend. Well, they used to.
Not anymore.
It would be so easy for even if you rotated, for Cole to leave with, and again, his wife is stunning, for them to leave and go and be with family. He doesn't because he wants to bring you guys high school football. We're honored to do it. We don't care who wins or loses. We don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, nothing like that. We love doing this. That player spotlight series, I'll put it out there. It was awesome. I used to have kids on the show all the time. We probably had, in the COVID year of 2020, I think we had like 85 football players on the show. Those are the things we like to do for people. We like to make these kids feel special. That's why we send them popcorn. We do things to make people feel special. All right. Glenville, Brandon Soderpenner dominated, went 15-0 last year, actually 16-0, swept through the regular season, crushed the state championship game. Cole and I were there. It was a blowout. They're doing it again. Here we go again. Just crushed some team by like 50 points. Division 4, really? Should Glenville be in Division 4? The gloves are off. Go for it.
First off, there's not going to be any good answer to this question. But, taking a look at everything, the entire situation, I don't think they should be in Division 4. But I don't think it's as egregious as people were kind of making it out to be. Obviously, we saw them fall pretty sharply from Division 1 all the way down to Division 4. First off, Glenville still deserves credit for building that program to what it's become. Ted Ginn has done a wonderful job there and has built up and been able to recruit. And I say that because it is an open enrollment school. That's a huge part of it right there. Regardless of what division you are in, if you are an open enrollment school that has that kind of pedigree like Glenville does, you're going to have an advantage. So I don't think the division is as big of an issue when it comes to that. They're recruiting because of their programs, because kids want to go play for Ted Ginn. But then on top of that, you take a look at the division itself. Division 4 is below them, I think. I mean, it's tough to argue that when you look at the scores all throughout the year. The one thing I will say is they did play Avon, they did play Archbishop Hoban, they did lose both of those games. And they were, I guess, close-ish. but not necessarily games where it looked like Glenville was really hanging the entire time. What people talk about the most and what seems to be the big sticking point is this Ginn Academy, right? Where they found a loophole in that kids can go to Ginn Academy, and since there are no sports, they can then go and play at the local level, which would be at Glenville. But those numbers then wouldn't count towards their overall student population. Thing is, and I don't have the hard numbers right in front of me, but I was taking a look at this earlier. Even if you were to combine all of the Ginn Academy and all of Glenville together, we're talking potentially still even Division 4 numbers, but more than likely Division 3 when we start talking about competitive advantage. So what it really comes down to, I don't think they need to be bumped all the way back up to Division 1 or Division 2, which seems to be kind of the rally cry from anyone that hasn't been, kind of on the Glenville train here, hasn't been, particularly excited to see them succeed down at this Division 4 level. I think we just need to go up one step. Division 3, I think they'd be challenged appropriately. At least I still think they have a great shot at winning the state title at the Division 3 level, but I don't think we're going to be seeing, like you guys said, Shelby last week 50-14, Napoleon 44-7. It's almost a St. Ed's type situation from over the last 3 years. The only difference being St. Ed's can't move up anywhere. They're in Division 1. There's no Division 1A for them to kind of move up to. So there's no direct solution for, balancing out Eds, but there is one for Glenville. I think ultimately Division 3 is where they belong. But I don't think it's as big of a problem as people have kind of made it out to be.
So, you mentioned St. Ed's just now. Dom, you were so excited to see the Eagles play. This is your first real taste of them in person this year, last week. What did you think? I mean, I believe it was 35-3 was the final. No, I'm sorry. Cam McKinley scored a couple of late touchdowns, but still a running clock at one point.
Yeah, Eds, I'll tell you what. So Eds goes in with the third string quarterback. They emphasize the run. I forget the young man's first name, but the running back White for Eds was phenomenal.
Brandon.
Yes, correct. Thank you. I know you would know the players off the top of your head. So it took an army of Bulldogs to bring him down. That offensive line moved the line of scrimmage. As offensive linemen, that's a big point of emphasis. Let's move the line of scrimmage. When our running back has to guess what hole he's hitting, let's do it while he's 3-4 yards down the field. They do that every play.
Yep.
McKinley, the score would show you, especially if you look at the first half score, that McKinley didn't play well. They did literally everything they could. On offense, they were picking apart Eds until they got to the red zone and things got squeezed down. They were finding multiple wide receivers open. They were literally running curls and slants, nothing deep. They were getting 4 or 5 yards down the field. They just couldn't run. And that's credit to Eds. They will let you catch the ball, but that's as far as you're getting. You're not getting much more. McKinley did from time to time, but I mean that Eds team, they are just bigger, quicker, faster, stronger than the best guys on your team, and it's insane what they can do. I mean, their wide receivers, it just was circus catch after circus catch. Kyan Mason, I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes.
He is going to Akron. From what I heard, from what I was told.
So yeah, I know. Play together.
So I tweeted out in a bunch of Akron Twitter accounts. One person said "Future Zip," and a bunch of people retweeted it. I have not done any research outside of that, so I'm assuming he's being recruited and possibly committed to Akron. But
and I'm pretty sure we'll get an email from Ed Doherty letting us know probably within the next 12 hours.
Yeah. And I got to talk to Ed before the game too. And we somehow got on the topic of New Jersey football, but he's awesome being able to talk to him. I would say what the fans really showed out, and Ed told me it was a small amount of fans that went to the game, which is absurd to me. Both bands were great. I mean, also Ed's band, they bring the juice, man. They were nonstop playing some cult classics. I was having a good time up in the box. Here's one thing that I had a complaint on the game. Not a complaint, but one thing as a writer is the worst, right? So McKinley fights back. and I don't know if I think the clock stopped. I don't know if that is a rule, if it should stop, because
30.
yeah, so it's
So
30.
once they
They
get
got
over
within
30,
they got within 30 and the clock stopped running.
right.
Okay. Well, my dad is a referee in PA, said that shouldn't be a thing. And he thought it was the same in Ohio. Must not be the case.
No,
He
Ed.
says that once you get to 30, which I thought it was 35 in PA, it keeps going even if they get within, which I don't know how true that is. So
Nope.
that was weird to me. I got all confused, but either way, the clock stops for the last 6 minutes of the game. Both teams put in their JV players. We had probably about 20 minutes with 3 minutes within the fourth quarter where these young JV players were struggling to get a playoff, both sides of the ball. And, you can see frustrations from both coaching staffs. It's like, just snap the ball and run the ball. Like, what do we do? And people in the press box, the announcers are like, they can't run a play. That was the only thing about the game that was tough, because I was going to drive to Erie after the game to see my girlfriend. So that was going on. And I'm like, I did not expect this to happen, because that third quarter may have been 10 minutes long and the fourth quarter was maybe 30 minutes long. It was a very weird second half, but it was really cool to be around that environment. Again, Ed's is a great football team. I hope they get to see them again here in the future for next year, because I am done covering games on site. I know you guys know that, but just for listeners that enjoy my tweets, because I tweet a lot. Yeah, it was my first taste of Kent McKinley and Ed's, and it was an enjoyable time. And I know McKinley wanted that game to be a little bit closer, but either way, it was still a fun game to be at.
Well, the team that St. Ed's will play now, the Medina Battling Bees. We're going to get to Cole here in a split second for Cole to kind of talk to us about how the Bees have reached this big game here with St. Ed's, the third time in 4 years, I want to say. Go back and check my math on that one, but I'm pretty sure the third time in 4 years. And feel free to touch on the Glenville thought as well.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is we've been a little bit critical, and I guess the question mark has been Medina's defense. I think everybody out there's had the same question. No questions about their offense, right? It's, can their defense get the stops that they need? Can they actually keep teams from scoring? Is it going to be a shootout every time they go out there on the field? Because it's not really sustainable that way. I'll tell you what, the defense stepped up. It's why I said that whole defense was the player of the game, because even though you could certainly say that Stoddard with his 3 touchdown passes is deserving. You can say that Austin Knowles with his 2 touchdown receptions and big plays, he's deserving. There are guys on the offense that are deserving of player of the game, statistically speaking, but that defense, they did what they needed to do to win that game. It was a defensive slugfest in that first half. I mean, Medina kind of played against Cleveland Heights like Brunswick did at the beginning, where Brunswick did a great job of setting the edge. They were surefire when it came to tackling. They really didn't miss much. And when it got down to the last man and it felt like Cleveland Heights needed just one more block and Marquise Davis has taken one to the house, that last guy would make the tackle. That's what Brunswick did. That's what Medina was able to do. And that's why it was such a low-scoring game in that first half. The defenses were stepping up. Obviously, Cleveland Heights, they were getting some big stops as well. But then you obviously saw Medina. They got some big stops as well. So those fourth down stops, especially close to the red zone really close to the end zone when the defense was backed up, those were huge for both teams, but none bigger than for Medina, because they stood up and quieted down the best player in the state of Ohio in Marquise Davis. I mean, that guy's a stud. He's been incredible this year. I've seen him in person 3 times, and about 2 of the only games where he was actually somewhat slowed down this season just happened to be 2 of the 3 that I was at with Brunswick and Medina in this playoff game. Second half, Medina got some of the big passes that they needed. Of course, you have Wojak, you have Knowles, the typical culprits, and some of the other wide receivers stepped up for some big plays when they were needed. A throw on fourth down out to the far sideline and getting that first down, and that was a big pickup. So ultimately, Medina did what they needed to do offensively, and defensively, again, that was really what won them that ball game. Have to say though, when Medina scored with like a minute and 40 seconds left, it felt like this Cleveland Heights team, they're known for running the ball. I don't think they have enough time down at 21 to 14. Well, they decided to run the ball a couple times with Davis. He didn't break off any big runs. There was a defensive holding call called in the secondary on a pass once they actually went to the air. So they had about 40 seconds left, but they had 48 yards to go to get to the end zone. Lake steps back and the lefty launches a beautiful pass down the near sideline. It was on a rope, a perfect spiral. He only throws like 4 or 5 times per game, honestly. Perfect pass down the field to Amir Atkins, who hauls it in, keeps his feet in bounds right up along the near sideline in that end zone. And now you think 32 seconds left. Yes, Medina is a quick strike offense. Maybe just kick the field goal, take it to overtime. The defenses have both been getting stops. We'll see what happens, who can win it in overtime. But at the same time, you also have that Medina is a quick strike offense in the back of your mind. It's like all we need is, Stoddard to throw a bomb to Knowles or Wojak and they're gone, and that's game. So ultimately, Cleveland Heights, they made the decision to go for it on that 2-point conversion. And I don't necessarily hate the call. I just don't know why you don't give it to Marquise Davis. Like I said, the best player in the country there. I think that offensive line could have maybe gotten enough of a push, could have had a chance there. Instead, they decided to maybe overthink it a little bit, go read option. Lakes pitches it to John Gordon Jr., who's a good back himself. Really had one man to beat and got tripped up at the 1-yard line. So ultimately, great job. Credit to the Medina defense for getting that stop and winning that ball game 21-20. But it was a fun one all the way to the end. You talked heavily about Olmsted Falls and Avon, how good it was. This one was incredible as well. It was just a defensive battle, which was a complete flip of the script from what that first one was between these two teams, which was a shootout. So now Medina has a tough test, and they're going to need that defense to play like they did against Cleveland Heights to have a chance this upcoming game.
Now, Brandon, here's the thing. This is back-to-back thrilling victories for Medina, right? Going into Wadsworth, getting that win, beating Wadsworth for the second time this season, and now this huge win against Cleveland Heights. A lot of people had maybe counted them out because of that defense, but this is back-to-back weekends now in which they've shut down, for the most part, great offenses. They're winning in the end. They're showing that they have heart. And this is a team that I've seen with my own 2 eyes. Again, I'd love to go back to that old COVID year. But again, in the COVID year, this is a team that beat Ignatius and St. Ed's back-to-back and just rode that wave of momentum. Are they doing that again this year? Because it sure feels that way.
Just to give credit to Medina, I know Cole talked about it a little bit. We've been critical of Medina because it's not at least in the regular season, wasn't the greatest regular season performance we've seen from them in the past. And we're a little bit spoiled because we've had, obviously, Stoddard there and Drew Aller before him. But, ultimately, this team, something changed. Something shifted here a little bit these last few weeks. Specifically, since that first Cleveland Heights game, it feels like that was almost maybe their wake-up call. First off, they haven't lost since then. And then when I take a look at it, you take out the John Marshall game, the first round of the playoffs, which, taking a deeper look into that, Medina went up quick and kind of coasted, only put up 7 points in that second half. So they let their foot up off the gas. But you remove that where they gave up 40 to John Marshall. Their last 4 games, they've given up an average of about 12.5 points, which is not something that we have seen from Medina in the 4 or 5 years we've all been doing this. So I've got to give credit to the defense there. It's different. They must have been hearing us. I don't know what it is, but that defense really woke up. They're showing that they can compete. And now, Vince, when you initially, posed this question to me when we were talking about the show ahead of time, you talked about momentum. And I think that does come into play here just a little bit. They're going against St. Ed's, which there's never going to be an easy game against St. Ed's. Don't get me wrong, but they've been able to kind of coast through the playoffs at this point. They have not been tested yet, which pretty rare that St. Ed's ever is that early in the playoffs. So not particularly surprising. But you flip it over to the other side, Medina, we talked about at the beginning of the playoffs what teams could potentially compete with Ed's. And I narrowed it down to 2. It was Wadsworth and it was Cleveland Heights because they had balanced offenses. They could kind of change up their game plan. They had good defenses. They could kind of play St. Ed's game and at least gives themselves a shot. Well, Medina just went in and beat both of those teams in defensive games. It's a little bit mind-boggling, but they have figured something out. The momentum is definitely on Medina's side here, and it feels like, everything's going their direction. I'm calling my shot. I think after we've been doubting them for so long, I owe it to the Battling Bees. I think Medina goes in there and they beat St. Ed's this weekend.
Wow.
They
Wow.
were tested earlier in the season. They took their lumps. I think they figured it out. Don't forget, too, after losing to Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, I think, had lost one game or maybe hadn't lost at all. They put up 70 on them, almost doubling up their score. This is a very good Medina team, and we kind of lost track of that because it wasn't the same, high-powered offense at every point, and that defense was definitely a liability at points in the regular season. But, man, everything's kind of swinging their direction right now. I thought Cleveland Heights was going to come away with that game by at least a score or two, but 2 weeks in a row, they've proved us wrong. I'm done kind of doubting them. I owe it to the Battling Bees. I think they've got a really, really good shot against Eds. It's going to be a great game. I don't think anybody goes in and just cakewalks here, but I think Medina's got a good shot.
One more thing I want to mention. Not only did the defense step up, the other thing that's funny is that almost non-existent run game, aside from Stoddard occasionally on quarterback draws in the regular season that we see, they always find a way, and credit to their coaching staff, of getting the run established a little bit once the weather gets cold and they have to get into the postseason. Saw a lot of Jack Wojak now in the backfield as that pistol back, a lot of times getting plenty of carries. But then also you see that they bring Cooper Josefczyk, the linebacker. He comes over from the defensive side. They now bring him in, and not just goal line scenarios, but also just short yardage situations anyway. And they go into these like heavy power sets. They had, because I had the Cleveland Heights coaching staff over to my right there, and they're kind of shouting, is like, hey, they're going heavy, right? Change up the personnel. They're making them think, right? Making them, burn a timeout there because they're not expecting it, right? They expect them to go 5 wide like typical Medina, or at least maybe sometimes have Wojak back there, but they go heavy set. All those receivers go off. They've got multiple tight ends. They got guys who are on the defense typically lined up there trying to block for Josefczyk and, give him the ball. So it's something that we see them do once the weather gets cold, and they have more of a ground game in the postseason than they always do in the regular season. So it's a little wrinkle that they add to that offense, which is always interesting as well.
I do want to say something.
Yeah.
I believe I was the only one that predicted they would win.
That's fair.
No, I did too.
You did.
Did
No,
you? Vince
I
Lilly?
did too.
I listened,
Oh.
and I think I was the first to say it, right? Listen, I'm not going to take all the credit. I'll give some to you too, Vince. I'm just saying this is the second year in a row that
It is.
that I had a weird feeling in my gut, right? I'm not going with statistics, okay? Stats lie. That's a fact. You know what doesn't lie? My gut feeling about certain teams. And that's exactly what happened. And credit to Cleveland Heights. It's a great football team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great football team. My brain told me Cleveland Heights would win, but my gut, which was correct, picked Medina. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Never distrust an Italian's gut. I got one of my own
Yeah.
over here. You guys can't see because the camera doesn't go low enough. Trust me, it's there. I felt the same way though, Dom. That's last week when you said that. I said trust your gut. I actually think it's going to happen too. So, kudos to you. The only thing I'll say about this game, is that I don't really when we get to the regional championships. I just don't consider. I've stopped a long time ago, and then when you get to the regional championships, I don't consider there to be a heavy favorite in any situation. I don't care what the numbers say, because you're there for a reason. You're good enough to be there for a reason. State championships is the same way. Me and Cole have seen this, I think, 3 different times. Cole and I, in the last 2 years of state championship games, we've seen teams get running clocked. All right. So you picture a team like South Range beat. It wasn't JFK last year. I forget who South Range beats. So bear with me on that. But they running clocked this team, and I'm thinking to myself,
I think you're right, actually.
Yeah, I think it was JFK.
It was.
Yeah. So how do you in the world? You're the second best team in the state at that level, and you just got running clock. So, again, it is what it is at this level, and especially in this round, especially next week, you could really forget about it. State Final Four, it's anybody's ball game. And I guarantee it, if it's Avon versus Hoban, everybody's going to go ahead and say Avon doesn't have a chance. They lose to them every year. I'll be the first one to say it. That don't count out Coach Elder. If you've heard me say one thing repeatedly, it's that. So if that matchup happens, we will see. And that's actually where we're going to next. Back to Dom. Quickly here, Dom, I'm just curious to know, because out of all of us, I believe you are the only one that have seen Highland play this year. So Highland, Avon, what is Highland going to bring to Avon? What does Highland do well?
Well, Highland is going to run the ball down your throat. Doesn't matter who you are. They have a slew of running backs that can do it all, but they have one starter that I mean it takes a group to bring them down. It's a good offensive line group, an experienced quarterback room. They have talent. If they want to beat Avon, they essentially got to go down to what Olmsted Falls did, right? And keep the ball out of Avon's hands and run the ball. Again, it's a different system. They don't run the winning tee, right? They don't run the triple option, but that's what they do. I mean, North Ridgeville did a good job in that first half when I saw them play Highland, of slowing them down constantly. They did everything they could to slow them down, and they couldn't in the second half, right? Because eventually that running attack was just too good. It was too effective. I'd have to look back on the stats I took, but I'm pretty sure they averaged in the first half, and they only had a touchdown or two in the first half. I think they averaged maybe 5-6 yards a carry. This team could run the ball, and it's the reason why they're one of the top teams in their conference. They have a shot to beat Avon, right? Especially after what Olmsted Falls showed that there's kinks in the armor, and you have a backup quarterback who is very talented for Avon stepping up. But I'll tell you what, this Highland team, they have a shot. They have to run the ball. Their defense has to step up. They struggled a little bit against North Ridgeville. This isn't a North Ridgeville offense, right? North Ridgeville struggled to throw the ball, right? Had a lot of injuries. They were still really hurt, really slow. This is an Avon team. They run the ball pretty much better than anyone else you'll see, and they can throw the ball just as well. So Highland, run the ball, play the best defense you've ever played in your life, and you'll be able to win the game. And again, I don't mean that as an insult to Highland, because that's a good defense. It's just that's how good Avon's offense is. And Olmsted Falls played some of the best defense they ever played all year that we've seen. And they kept themselves in the game. They give themselves a chance. And that's exactly what Highland needs to do. If they can run the ball effectively, I don't see a reason why Highland can't be in this game in the fourth quarter.
Dom, before I break down this game, I am dying to ask you, my man, what is on your T-shirt and your hat?
Canton McKinley, my man.
I thought for sure. I'm like, what?
Go Dogs! No, after the Eds game, I drove straight down the Canton McKinley and bought myself a hat and a T-shirt. No, so my lovely girlfriend lived in Athens, Georgia in the summer. So we visited the campus. Went to the bookstore. I'm a big college football fan. It shows in my Mac coverage. So this is Uga. I don't know if it's like any version of him. I think it's just a general Uga, okay, which is the Bulldog mascot. And then this is I'm a big fan of like the old Southern logos of like the 70s, and this is one of them. Like Auburn has one. It's essentially like the mascot animal wearing a weird hat. And all the Southern schools have one. Even like Pitt has one. And it's hilarious. Like Auburn, Baylor, I think Alabama might have one too. Vince, I will send you a picture of them. But yeah, I had to get the hat and the shirt.
Ultimately, Vince, if it's the 70s, Dom's in for it. That 70s rough and tough football, 70s logos. I mean, that's what we hear about all the time on the broadcast. People out there listening, if they've never seen Dom, they have to think he played football back in the 70s, because that's what he references.
I still think you need the shirt that says, I love the screen pass.
I hate screen passes. I hate them.
Love the outfit, though, Dom. I'm 100% behind you here.
I thought about wearing my Braves hat. I don't know where it is. I have 2 Braves hats. I could have worn one of them. So, yeah, I'm big Georgia guy here. Love peaches. President Carter. Go President Carter. He's from Atlanta. Go Atlanta soccer team. Yeah, big Atlanta guy here.
I think I think I just lost my Atlanta membership here. I think Dom's taking that over.
Yeah, we got the
I
resident Falcons fan here.
7 years wasn't enough, man. You know, Dom's down there for a summer and he's just taking all my teams. I don't know what to do.
Hockey was better when the Atlanta Thrashers were a team, baby. Bring it back. Third time's a charm. We can do it.
Man, that shows what I know about it. The NHL. They're no longer a team. Where did they go?
They moved up.
Are they the collect Nordic?
They exist, but they're still a minor league organization. They haven't been an NHL team in quite a long time.
In like the 2000s.
Wow,
I think that organization was replaced by the Winnipeg Jets. I could be wrong.
I believe that, yeah.
Jets, man.
Yeah.
NHL 97. All right, so listen, it's been a lot of fun, but I did want to touch on something that I think is important about Blake Elder, the backup quarterback for Avon. A lot of times, what we see in a game is the backups come in once the running clock's started, a team's up by 35, and the backup quarterback hands the ball off 3 or 4 times, and that's kind of it. Every now and then, you might see him throw a Dom special, also known as a screen pass, but you'll see that, right? But you don't see much. Guys, I am telling you right now, number one, this is Coach Elder's son. So this little kid, well, I shouldn't say little kid, this 10th grader has had a playbook in his hands probably since he was an infant. He bleeds Avon football. I mean, this kid is good. And then, like I said, when he winged that 70-yard touchdown pass, or 78-yard touchdown pass, I think the receiver caught it at least 68 yards downfield and ran 10. I mean, this kid, go back and look at the highlights. He's really good. I mean, I know Nolan Good was incredible, but this is not a huge drop-off for Avon. Like, I would not expect them to say, okay, we're going to have to hand the ball off to JC, 45 times. I mean, Caffey's good. You're going to want to get it to him. I know they will. But they're not going to shy away from throwing the ball with Blake. The kid could absolutely sling it. So very excited for that.
Vince, yeah. I know you're going to, before you finish up the show, give your favorite memory from the season. I have to say one thing. You just mentioned a cool story with Blake Elder and the potential of that run able to continue.
Yeah.
Of course, something cool about sports is there's always potential cool stories. I'll tell you what, guys, something that we talked about these teams, we'll see if it actually happens. What if the Medina Battling Bees pull off the upset and Highland wins as well? That town might burn to the ground. I mean, the celebrations are going to be huge if both Medina schools go on to win their regional championship games. That would be a wild story as well this upcoming week.
Can someone explain to me why it's the both Medina schools are the Bees and the Hornets?
And you have Buckeye too.
Which are not Bees or Hornets.
Right, but you still have 3 schools.
I didn't know it was a Medina. I'm still learning a lot. I just learned right there in this moment that Highland is not a town. So I didn't know it was a Medina. So that's I didn't realize Medina was that big of an area.
Yep.
And I have two close friends that with the Highland. I should know this. But I don't. I am done talking now. So
it's all good. And I'll say this too. It helps our numbers as a website. And don't edit this out. Let it be, because we need sponsors. Like, if you own a business in Medina, sponsor us. I mean, we have a huge fan base out there. Yeah. We covered Buckeye every week all year long. We covered Medina all week all year long. Covered Highland a bunch of times. We're there constantly. Obviously, that Avon Olmsted Falls game, besides it being everything that went down in it, those are, again, 2 of our huge fan bases. So I'm sure that's why there's so many hits on that article. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it would be cool. Also, before I get to my final points, I want to throw this out there for you Olmsted Falls fans watching, and if there's any Columbia fans watching as well. The first week of the high school football season, I've always said, should be Olmsted Falls versus Columbia. Now, I know the rivalry is, because it's in my doggone book, which, by the way, book signing on Saturday, please show up. But here's the thing. If you look at how everything's lined up, right, Olmsted Falls is actually in closer proximity to Columbia than I think it is Berea, if not the identical distance, because instead of going down this way towards Baldwin Wallace on Bagley, you're going up this way on Columbia. Ironically enough, the street's called Columbia, but you're going up Columbia to get to Columbia. Why not have an opening night game there? Like, if I was in charge of that, I'd do that in a heartbeat. I would have opening night, Olmsted Falls versus Columbia, closing night, week 10, Berea versus Olmsted Falls. Why don't they do that? So My email, coachvin14 at yahoo.com. If you have an answer to that, or vince.mckee@keonsports.com, send it to either one. I'm dying to know why they don't play that game.
Remind me, because I'm
Huh?
forgetting off the top of my head. What's Columbia? Division 5, Division 6 right now?
They're smaller. They're like Division 4 or 5. I'll look. They're definitely, I think.
I want to say they're 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they're
So
smaller.
that's a big reason.
Yeah, that's probably a part of a big reason. A lot of times you see, maybe Division 1 through Division 3 play each other. But yeah, you typically don't see that big of a range, Vince. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it could be an interesting game. I mean, Columbia is usually typically good, but Olmsted Falls is a very good program themselves. So I think the size of those schools, they might not play that one.
That's got to be the only reason. I mean, that, and for the longest time, that was the only local schools with regular grass left. So, and by the way, before I get to my final points here, we need to find a way to make Barberton work next year, guys. I mean, even if I just go cover game as a writer, I miss that atmosphere. I went back and looked. That was the 4th game I ever covered, was Barberton versus Aurora in 2015. It's a great atmosphere. All right.
I'm not opposed to getting it on the slate this year, guys. That's all I'm saying.
What was that?
I'm not opposed to getting it on the broadcast slate if we can find a way to make it work. I know it's outside of our normal comfort zone, but again, I've been there as well. Just to credit Vince, it's a great atmosphere. I think we'd have a good time. We can make it work.
Drove through Canfield this weekend, like I was telling you, Dahmer. You ever been to Canfield?
Oh, have I been to Canfield? I used to go to the Canfield Fair.
Awesome.
In youth football, my city got kicked out of our county because of some argument. They recently just got kicked out of it again because of competitive advantages. They wanted to split the county or the city's team into two, and they didn't have enough kids for 2 teams. The other area said, well, you have too many kids, so they left. Well, they moved to the Ohio League, like I played at when I was younger, and Canfield was a top dog. We lose to them every year by 40. So Canfield is a very, 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 very good athletic school in the Youngstown area. We hated playing them. They had a really big school compared to what we had. It was not enjoyable. So yes, I've been to Canfield plenty of times. I hate it every time, other than the times I went to the fair, because I was usually losing in a sport.
I'll tell you what, their fairgrounds were incredible. I went to meet big time wrestlers. Yes, I am 41 years old. I'll be 42 in 2 months. I don't care. There were big time wrestlers there. I wanted to see them. And this was after that Olmsted Falls Avon game. Guys, you know it well. I was talking about at 3 a.m. bedtime on Friday nights. I didn't go to bed on this particular Friday night till probably about 4:30. I couldn't get my mind off that game. For obvious reasons, it was just ridiculously good. And then to get up and drive 90 minutes to Canfield on probably 3 hours of sleep was definitely not the brightest move, but I did have that Red Bull, not Red Bull, but the Rockstar fruit punch that me and Brandon like. So gutted it out, got there. I think I had more teeth in my mouth than anybody else there, so it was a fun time. All right, so that being said, gotta piss somebody off before the show's over. Actually, Canfield's really, like you said, Dom, they're really good. We me and Cole saw them win a state championship, I want to say 2 years ago. Yeah, and I think since I've been doing this, I've seen them win 2 state championships.
Good, great baseball program as well. I got my start broadcasting, covering them. One of the fields that I was mainly a broadcaster at was their home field, Bob St. Park. Great baseball there. Got to see them play a lot in the playoffs, so that was a lot of fun. So the Canfield holds a special place for me.
Very nice. Awesome, guys. Want to thank you again. Before we close it out, I'll give every one of you guys a chance to say your goodbyes for the year. But before we do that, I want to take my turn. You guys had your turn over the first 3 weeks. I want to say it went Brandon, Cole, Dom. Your favorite moment of the year. Now, I was not on any Keon Sports broadcasts. I was on several, WHK, and I have been over the years with Ed. But my favorite 2 moments are actually moment number 1. I only have 2, and I could literally list probably like 20 at the top of my head. I'm going to stick to 2. Favorite moment number 1 was the Holy War. And not because of the game, because it was the worst Holy War football game I think I've ever seen. It was just putrid bad. But people who know me know this. I'm a big St. Ignatius fan. My cousin went to St. Ignatius. My best friend went to St. Ignatius. If you were to look about 3 feet to my left, there's an Ignatius Rydell helmet sitting there. Been a big fan my whole life. So it's pregame, and my tradition, I'm always down on the field pregame, talk to both coaches, get a picture of the coin toss, all that good stuff. So pregame hasn't even really it's just about to hit its peak. Okay, we've had the coin toss, talking about to come back out on the field. So before I walk to the press box, I'm coming through the gate, and it's right as St. Ignatius is running in. So if you can picture me, all 5'8" of me, if that, standing on a Bible, as I'm walking, the guy opens up the gate. Here comes St. Ignatius charging through. I was in the St. Ignatius run out for the Holy War. Like, somewhere there's got to be a video of that. And I didn't do it on purpose. I swear to God. I just happened to be walking at that exact moment.
Sure. I accidentally was carrying the flag as I let the team out on the field.
Guys, I accidentally played quarterback for 4 downs against
Well, they could have used it that night. But just unbelievable. So the rush, man, because let me tell you, after that, there wasn't many St. Ignatius rushes the rest of that night. But they opened up that gate, and for a second, I was like, I am a St. Ignatius Wildcat. So it just felt really good. And I'll be in the press box this weekend for St. Ed's versus Medina. Feel free to hold that against me. All right. That being said, my other favorite moment of the year, besides getting to pretend to be a high school football player for 2 seconds, was this is crazy. One of the worst games I saw all year was Buckeye, and I'm going somewhere with this, was Buckeye versus North Olmsted. And anybody who was there would tell you that. The game was atrocious. I think the final score was like 48-28. Like Dahmer said, it kept getting close to like that 30-point cutoff, right? But the problem was every time you get close to a running clock, North Olmsted would score. And then it extended the game way longer than it had been. Then on top of that, unfortunately, a young man named Hayden Rios, good kid from North Olmsted, a senior at North Olmsted High School, appeared to break his neck. And one of the scariest things I think any of us have ever seen in a press box. They had to go ahead and take the ambulance out of the field, put him on the board, put him in. It was awful. Paused the game for at least, I'd say, anywhere 25 to 35 minutes. Definitely more than 25 minutes. And it just made a long night a lot longer. But at the same time, you just had this gut feeling like, oh my God, what did I just see? It was scary as can be. He got up and then collapsed and went right down and didn't move. So when you see like I said in the beginning with my daughters, when you see an 18-year-old kid go down like that, it puts a lot of things in perspective. We are doing this for fun. We are doing this maybe for a few extra bucks. But at the end of the day, we're doing this because we love to do this. So when that kid went down, it took a bad night and made it worse. So fast forward to my favorite moment of the year. We're going to fast forward. That was September 8th. So we go to about the middle of October. So around, I think this game was October 12th, I want to say, give or take. North Olmsted plays again. I'm there again. It's their game with the cheerleaders, the little girls who get to cheerlead. So my wife's there, my parents are there, my wife's mom is there, and my daughters, which you met, are cheerleading. And I'm like, this is a really cool night. And it's Westlake versus North Olmsted. Well, there are things about that night that make it my favorite night of the year. Number one, Hayden Rios returned. Here's a kid who 6 weeks earlier, whatever that was, 5 weeks earlier, I'm like, please God, just let him walk again. He came back to play that night. He actually started the game and played. I was like, it was unbelievable. He gave me a rush of adrenaline. That was amazing. Watching my kids cheerlead was amazing. And then the game itself was incredible. Final score, 54-48. All kinds of crazy things in the fourth quarter. The score going into the second half was 21-7. So it just tells you what that second half entailed for the final score to be 54-49. Every time somebody touched it, they would score. It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Colin Willard, who's going to get my Warrior of the Year award when it comes out in a few weeks. So there's a little sneak peek spoiler for everybody. Colin Willard, who didn't play at all for North Olmsted all year long, he was hurt. He came back for that game. The kid was unstoppable. One of the coolest plays I've ever seen in high school football this kid made. He caught, I'd say, about 50-yard pass. Tommy Horsfall lunged it to him all the way down the field, over the shoulder, catches it. Westlake kid goes to tackle him. I kid you not. This Colin Willard kid jumped up, took the kid by the helmet, and then shoved him right to the ground. Like stiff arm city, wham, ran in for a touchdown. North Olmsted had this game won. They were up by, it would have been 6 with maybe a minute to go. And then Westlake went on their 2-minute drill, which was really a 1-minute drill, all running plays to Matthew Porcelli. Just one after another. Westlake pounds it in. One of the most dramatic games I've ever seen. Easily my game of the year until this past weekend. Olmsted Falls Avon game has a wider score differential, but really those two games are my two favorite. So that does it for me as far as my favorite moments go. Like I said, check it out in a few weeks. I began working on it last night. Just a sneak peek for everybody. I am through week 5 of my Warrior Awards. Through 5 weeks, I've already typed 2,600 words. So we are looking at possibly about a 10,000 word article. You're going to want a cup of coffee and something to eat while you read it, but it's worth it. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And the goal is to have the all Warrior team out by, we'll say, hopefully state championship weekend. Get those guys together, play against Dom's all grit team. Should be a lot of fun.
That would, so you know what's fun? I'm glad you mentioned that. Even before you announced the all Warrior team, I thought, how cool would it be if we had like and we're not announcing anything. This is me spitballing. How cool if we had a Keon Sports All-Star game?
Love it.
Maybe one day we can get that to happen, because it would have to be all seniors. I don't think we're legally allowed to have sophomores and juniors play an extra game of football outside of their school. But that would be cool one day if we're ever able to do something like that. But if you do not make the all grit team, you can still make the all warrior team. There are some crossover. Vince would have to announce what teams are eligible, because it's not the same amount of same teams. There are a few schools that are eligible that were eligible for the all grit that are eligible for the all warrior team. So stay tuned if that is you. I'm sure Vince will let everybody know in an article very soon.
Great. So make sure you reach out to Coach Vin14 at yahoo.com and blow up all of his social media as well if you want to be on that team for Vince.
Vince.McKee at KeonSports.com as well. We have made it big time. Okay, we're going to go home. Brandon, your final thoughts for the season. And again, I want you to take as much time as you want. And thank you again for everything you've done for Keon Sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys. Going all the way back to the beginning of the season when we started calling games this year, this has been the most fun I've had doing this. And I feel like we were able to put out a great product. We had a great team behind it this year. So it's just been a ton of fun. And I'm proud of kind of what we've been able to accomplish as Dom walks away. He's evidently crying, I'm sure. He just can't handle all the emotion. But just two other quick things I want to hit on. Title is still in progress, but even though we're done here, I'm going to be back in the podcasting game finally. There's going to be a sports betting podcast that's going to roll out beginning of December. Name is still in progress, but already getting guests lined up. I've got a couple on the books. I know Cole said he'd be interested in hopping on as well. So keep an eye on that. I'm going to have some more information out soon and aiming for somewhere in the beginning of December, like I said, to drop that first episode. So make sure you keep an eye on that. And then last thing, this weekend there's going to be a lot of big performances, a lot of players that are going to really step up and shine. But one that I feel like is not going to get talked about, and, I'm assuming there's a Miss Elder or a Mrs. Elder, but that house this week has to be tense with both, husband and son getting ready for that big game coming up. So credit to her. She's going to have to step up. I'm sure it's not easy, taking care of those guys this week. But all in all, it's been a really fun season, guys. I'm excited to see how everything kind of comes to a conclusion. And yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you, Brandon. Tom, final thoughts for the season.
No, it was a fun year. It sucks it's only 10 regular season weeks. I wish we could just do this. There was a spring season too. Sadly, it's not the case. I enjoy it. Again, I wish the playoffs were longer so we could keep on doing the podcast. So I enjoy it. I appreciate all the parent support, the school support, and the student support that has gotten behind these kids. It's made it fun for me. I've really gone strong with Twitter this year, especially in the playoffs, spotlighting kids, a kid posting, he's going to a MAC school and saying how big of a deal it could be. Then some of my followers in the MAC side and the high school side, get to see that. And it's happened a few times. It happened with Charlie Steinmetz a few weeks ago. So it really is a blessing that I'm able to spotlight these kids where Toledo super fans can be excited about Charlie Steinmetz. I mean, that's awesome, and that kid deserves it. And there are many other kids that I've spotlighted. I know a few kids that put in the All Grit team have retweeted. I mean, I had one today with Cooper Neal, I believe, from Brunswick. Just being able to create something with you guys that can get communities that I've kind of been adopted into, they can get excited for these things. It really makes it all worth it. It makes me happy. It makes this all worth it as well. So I'm excited. My third year here is complete, and can't wait to continue doing this with you guys.
Lifetime contract. You signed it.
Cole. I don't know what year. I didn't sign nothing. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, first of all, thank you to all the athletic directors, all the players, all the coaches, all the parents, like Dom mentioned. Of course, we love going and calling those games and love covering them and really every capacity. I get the pleasure of being on the broadcast for 10 weeks and then, switch to writing, and then my role's about to shift again. So, there's always, 3 shifts that I get, or about 4 shifts I get throughout the high school football season. But it's a good time as we're getting closer and closer to winding this down. So again, a shout out to all those schools. Cool thing is we get to really just, cover the game, talk X's and O's. We get to, have a little bit of fun on the broadcast. Love doing that. The cool thing with the podcast for the 4 weeks is we see all these teams, we see all these games, and really it's the opportunity where we actually get to put some opinion in, right? The cool thing is not everybody's going to necessarily agree with us. There's going to be people who do agree with us on what we say. But the cool thing is we get to see so many games. We get to be at a variety of different things. Vince is at different games than the 3 of us are for what we see. So we see so many different teams. Cool thing is we get to come in here, collaborate, really piece everything together from what we've witnessed and, get to share a little bit of that opinion, which is fun. So I already miss, Fridays, calling the games with Brandon and Dom. Season's not long enough when it comes to the regular season, us getting to broadcast. Have a great time. It is some of the most fun I get all year. It's a blast. So hate that we're already through that. But honestly, like I said, as we start to shift, again, now I get the pleasure of hanging out with Vince a little bit because we're so busy during this part of the year. This is probably the least amount of time I actually see Vince face to face in person, is because we have all these podcasts. We're on Zoom. We're doing it virtually. Sure, we're talking, we're communicating, we're texting, we're calling, but actually seeing each other face to face. This is the longest stretch we go through these couple months where we hardly see each other face to face. Then of course, you and I tradition, we cover the Division I, Region I championship game together. So we'll be together there on Friday. And then, of course, we have the 3 days of the state championship games upcoming as well. So, of course, then I get to edit video as our man Tony Bogan's down there on the field. And Bogan does a great job down there. And, of course, that cold weather and comes up, brings the clips up to me, and I put that together so we can get the highlight film up. So we run that 3-man crew there. And yeah, so make sure everybody out there, again, if you haven't hit subscribe, you go ahead and hit subscribe here because there's a lot of coverage still upcoming the next couple of weeks here on the YouTube channel. Of course, you're going to see a lot of written articles, content going up on keonsports.com as well. So, about through this season, but of course, it was another good year. So certainly enjoyed it.
Had a lot of fun this year, guys. As I could say, thank you again as we close things out. It's a family. We do everything together, as Cole said. Looking forward to, Cole, the next couple of weeks, going to be seeing a lot of each other. Definitely need those eagle eyes when it comes to the Byersfield press box coming up. So
yeah, the fogged up windows, I'm sure, is what we'll have too. So yep,
be interesting to see who sneaks in this year. But looking forward to having a lot of fun with you guys as always. The last thing I'll say about that broadcast one more time, it's a great investment. If you're a small owner out there of any kind of business, these guys do a hell of a job. Brandon handles everything with the technical side so well. Cole is so very prepared with his play-by-play, so accurate. And Dom's just that personality that you just absolutely have to love. Really, I couldn't have picked three better guys to do that. When I stepped down from doing, broadcasting and everything, it was not an easy, it wasn't easy. So to put that with people I know and respect, that was the best way to do it. They've done a great job. Email me, vince.mckee@keonsports.com. Would love to see you guys this weekend out there in TV land or YouTube land. It is Linus Hall. So think about Charlie Brown. Linus Hall on the campus of OLA. That is in Rocky River, right off Rocky River Drive in Cleveland. That will do it for now. Again, one last thank you to everybody listening. I am Vince McKee for one final time for Cole McDaniel, Brandon Soder-Penner, the Italian Stallion, Dom Clary, and myself. Make sure to check out my articles the rest of the season. Check out the Mac podcast and all the great stuff Dom is doing with Mac. The TBD named later podcast of Brandon Soder, and of course the weekly podcast of the Climate Tech Inc. NFL Prediction Show, which I currently hold a 2-game lead. Wanted to just toss that out there for no particular reason at all as we bring this one home. From my family to your family, have a great holiday season. We'll see you soon.